The restaurant was quiet, except for the sound of forks and glasses. Grant sat alone, just trying to get through lunch, when the waitress leaned in as if setting down a receipt, but under her hand she slid a small folded piece of paper. Her fingers trembled. Her voice didn't match her forced smile. "Please, pretend you're with me." She did not blink. She did not breathe. Someone was watching her. Someone who should not have been there. Grant looked up. A man stood outside the window, hands in pockets, staring straight at her. She took the seat across from him like they were lovers. Her smile looked like pain. "Hold on. Before I go any further, I need you to tell me where you're watching from right now. Just drop your city or country in the comments. I like knowing where our people are tuning in, and if you're new here, hit subscribe so you never miss these stories. If you already subscribed, tell me the time where you are right now. All right, let's continue." Grant placed his hand over hers, playing along, but she didn't relax. Her eyes were begging, not pretending. That was the moment everything changed. Grant didn't speak right away. He didn't need to. The way Lena's fingers gripped the edge of the table told him enough. They were stiff, white at the knuckles. Her smile stayed in place like it was pinned there. The man outside didn't move. He didn't pretend to do anything else. He just watched. The glass window between them felt thinner than air. Lena's voice barely touched the space between them. "Just talk. Just say anything." Grant lowered his gaze like a man mid-conversation, as if this was normal. His voice came out quiet. "How was your morning?" Her laugh cracked. It was the kind of laugh someone makes when they are close to breaking but trying not to show it. She nodded too quickly. "Oh, good. Good. Yours?" She wasn't even hearing the words. The man outside adjusted his jacket, leaned slightly closer to the glass. Grant kept his posture relaxed, calm, controlled. He did not look at the window. He spoke without moving his mouth much. "Look at me. Don't look away again." Her eyes lifted to his like that was the only safe place left. "Okay." She whispered it, almost mouthed it. Grant reached for the glass of water between them and offered it like they had done this 1,000 times. Her hand brushed his. It was cold, not restaurant cold. Cold from fear. She took a sip she didn't want. He kept his hand near hers on the table. A silent instruction. "Stay here." The door opened. A bell chimed. Footsteps crossed the floor. Slow, steady, measured. Lena went still, completely still. Grant didn't turn his head. He only watched her eyes, because her eyes would tell him where the danger was coming from. Her gaze flicked to the left, toward the bar, toward the server counter. Not the door. The man had gone around. He was behind them now. He was inside. Her breathing changed. A sharp inhale she tried to hide. Grant spoke first. Soft. Plain. "Do not react." She nodded, but her hands shook again under the table. He let the silence stretch. He knew silence could be a shield if held firmly enough. A chair scraped behind them. Someone took the table directly behind Lena. Close enough to hear everything. Close enough to touch her hair if he reached forward. Lena kept her eyes on Grant, but her pupils were wide, terrified. The man behind them exhaled, a slow, satisfied sound, the kind someone makes when they find what they are looking for. "Cute." He said it like a joke, like a threat. Lena's throat worked. She didn't look back. She didn't move. Grant kept his voice steady. "I think you should try the lemon tart," he said. "It's better than it looks." Her breath hitched, but she followed his lead. "Sure, maybe we'll split one." The man behind them tapped his fingers on the table, a slow, steady rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. It wasn't random. It was a countdown. Grant's hand shifted just slightly, brushing hers again. A signal. She held onto that touch like it was the edge of a cliff. The air felt tight. Then, suddenly, the tapping stopped. A chair moved. Footsteps again. The door opened. The bell chimed once more. The presence behind them was gone. Lena didn't collapse, but something inside her loosened, just for a breath. Her shoulders lowered a fraction. Grant let go of her hand, slowly, carefully. She stood, too fast, almost tripping. She steadied herself on the table. "Thank you," she whispered. She didn't look back once as she walked out of the restaurant and into the street. Grant stayed seated. He looked at the folded note still lying under his receipt. He picked it up and placed it into his jacket pocket. He didn't unfold it. Not yet. Grant finished his meal slowly, as if nothing had happened. The clink of his fork on the plate sounded too sharp in the quiet room. The waiter cleared the table. The doorbell rang twice. People came and went. The restaurant returned to normal, but the air around Grant stayed heavy. He stood, nodded at the host, and stepped outside into the afternoon. The sky over River North was gray, the kind that promised rain but refused to start it. The street was busy, cars rolling, people passing, no one noticing anything. Lena was gone, not down the sidewalk, not across the street. Gone, as if she had disappeared into a crowd that wasn't even there. Grant didn't chase her. He pulled his coat tighter against the cold and walked toward the parking garage. His footsteps echoed. No one followed, no one watched. It should have felt safe, but something had shifted. Something had opened. He reached his car, unlocked it, sat down, and only then pulled the note from his pocket. He unfolded it carefully, as if the paper might break. There wasn't just one sentence. There were two. "Pretend you're with me, please." Underneath, written smaller, rushed, "Don't let him take me again." Grant's jaw tightened. His fingers pressed into the paper. The message was not for show. It was not a stunt. It was fear in handwriting. He started the engine, but didn't drive off. Not yet. Across the street, near a bus stop, the same man stood again, not watching the cafe, not searching, just looking directly at Grant's car. Grant didn't flinch. The man didn't move. Rain began to fall, slow, soft drops tapping the windshield. Grant pulled out of the spot, turned left instead of right, and took a long route home, weaving through traffic, turning twice without signaling, testing, checking. The man did not follow. Still, the feeling stayed. Something had begun today that would not end cleanly. Grant reached his building, a high-rise with mirrored windows and a lobby lined with marble. He parked, walked through the revolving door. The lobby was warm, quiet, familiar. He crossed to the elevator. The doorman nodded. Grant nodded back. Nothing unusual, until the elevator doors slid open. Lena was standing inside, her hair damp, her clothes slightly wrinkled, eyes tired. Not surprised to see him, not embarrassed. Just there, like she had always been meant to be in that space. She exhaled when she saw him. Something in her shoulders eased, like his presence alone let her breathe. Grant stepped inside. The doors closed behind them. They rode in silence. Floor numbers blinked upward, one slow pulse at a time. She spoke first. "I'm sorry. I didn't know where else to go." Grant didn't look at her, but he didn't tell her to leave. The elevator reached his floor. The doors opened. Neither of them moved. Lena swallowed hard. "He doesn't stop," she said. "He doesn't get tired. And when he finds you, he doesn't let you go." Her hands were shaking again. Grant finally looked at her. "Who is he?" Lena opened her mouth to answer, but the elevator doors closed between them. The elevator descended, carrying Lena away, leaving only the faint echo of her last breath behind. Grant stood in the hallway for a moment. The carpet was quiet. The building hummed. The city outside moved on without them. He didn't go to his penthouse right away. Instead, he walked to the end of the hallway and leaned on the railing facing the wide windows overlooking the river. The rain streaked the glass, tracing slow, wandering lines downward, like something trying to find its way. He didn't know her. He shouldn't care. But the look in her eyes when she said, "He doesn't let you go," had left something unsettled inside him. Grant finally walked back to his door, unlocked it, and stepped into the space. The lights were warm, the furniture simple, everything in its place, clean, predictable, controlled. He closed the door behind him. Silence. He took off his coat, hung it neatly, loosened his collar, and walked to the kitchen. He poured a glass of water, drank half, set it down. Then he sat. Not to rest, to think. The note still lay on the counter. He turned it over. The back was blank. His phone buzzed. He didn't pick it up. Let it ring once, twice, 3 times. The ringing stopped. Then, immediately, the elevator dinged down the hall. Footsteps, not rushed, measured. Someone knocked. Once. Grant opened the door. Lena stood there again. This time she didn't try to be composed. Her hair was damp from the rain, her breathing uneven, her hands shaking harder than before. The fear she'd tried to hide had finally surfaced. "I shouldn't have left," she said quietly. He was in the lobby. Grant's expression didn't change. His voice didn't lift or soften. "Did he follow you here?" She nodded. Grant stepped aside. She entered without hesitation. He closed the door. She didn't go far, just stood there, near the entry, arms wrapped around herself like she was holding herself together. Grant didn't move closer. He kept a respectful distance. "Start from the beginning." She took a breath that wasn't quite steady. "He's not just some man I dated. That's what people think. That's what I let them think. But he's more connected than that. He works for people who make problems disappear, or create them." Her voice dropped lower. "He wasn't supposed to find me this time." Grant's brow shifted, barely noticeable. "What's his name?" The room felt smaller. Lena's voice trembled, but not from weakness, from remembering. "Miles." She said the name like it tasted bitter. Grant froze, not visibly, but something in him stilled, like the air had stopped moving. He did not ask, "Miles who?" He already knew. Lena didn't notice his reaction. She kept going. "Miles Roche, he—" Grant cut her off. Quiet. Controlled. "I know who he is." Silence wrapped the room tight. Lena's breathing paused, like her body recognized the danger in the words before her mind caught up. She looked at him slowly. "You know him." Grant didn't answer. He didn't need to. His silence was enough. Something passed between them. A shift. A recognition. Like two people realizing they were already inside the same storm long before they met. Lena's voice was barely audible. "What did he take from you?" Grant didn't look away. "Someone I trusted." The rain outside hit harder against the windows. The city kept moving. The world didn't stop. But everything inside that room had changed. The rain deepened outside, turning the windows into mirrors. Streetlights blurred into ribbons of amber and white. The city below looked distant, like it belonged to someone else. Inside the apartment, stillness sat heavy between them. Lena didn't rush to speak again. She just stood there, arms folded, breathing slow and uneven. Grant walked to the living room and motioned for her to sit. She did, but only on the edge of the couch, as if sitting too comfortably might imply safety she didn't believe in. Grant stayed standing. "How did you find me again?" he asked. She shook her head. "I didn't. I wasn't looking for you." He waited. Lena finally lifted her gaze. "I ran until I couldn't run anymore. I didn't have a plan when I walked inside that cafe. I just worked, kept my head down. Tried to look like someone forgettable. And then he came in." Her voice thinned. He smiled, like he was happy to see me. Grant leaned slightly closer, not threatening, just present. "And the note?" he asked. She swallowed. "That wasn't for you. I wrote it for whoever sat alone. I didn't know who'd get that table. I just needed someone who could make it look like I wasn't alone." Grant didn't look away. "You recognized him," he said. She nodded once. "He doesn't hide. He wants me to know when he's found me." The room felt colder, though the heat was on. Grant walked to the window, hands in his pockets, watching the city blur under the rain. Miles Roche doesn't chase without a reason, he said. He doesn't follow people for affection. He follows for leverage. Lena's fingers curled around the hem of her sleeve. I know, she whispered. Grant turned back to her. What did you see? Lena blinked like she didn't understand the question at first. What did you witness? He clarified. Her breath caught. Not because she was confused, because she remembered. I thought it was an accident, she said. At first, the fall, the way people rushed in, the paramedics, the panic. Everyone believed it. I believed it. Grant didn't blink. But Miles didn't. Miles knew. He didn't say it. He didn't cry. He just watched. He watched everything. And later, when everyone was gone, he told me. Told you what? That it wasn't an accident. Grant's jaw tightened. The apartment felt too still, too quiet, as if the world held still to listen. Who died? Grant asked. Lena hesitated. She didn't want to say it. She didn't want to be part of it, but she already was. His father, she said. The words dropped like weight. Grant didn't move, didn't breathe. He had stood at that funeral. He had spoken at it. He had carried a coffin he thought represented tragedy, not deception. Lena's voice broke softly. And I think Miles believes you had something to do with it. Silence pressed against the room. We're done, Grant said quietly. Not to her, to the past, to the story that was supposed to have ended years ago, to guilt that wasn't his. He turned back to Lena. From now on, you stay here. You don't leave alone. No exceptions. Lena didn't argue. She didn't ask why he cared. Her eyes just filled, tired relief, fear, and something softer, almost human. She nodded once. Okay. Lightning flashed. Thunder rolled through the building. The storm outside had finally broken open. Grant led her down the hallway. The apartment was quiet except for the distant hum of rain against the glass. He opened the guest room door. The room was simple, soft lighting, clean sheets, a single chair near the window. No decoration, no personal history. Lena stepped inside slowly, as if she expected it to vanish if she moved too quickly. You can sleep here, Grant said. His voice stayed steady but not cold, just controlled. She nodded, fingers still curled tight around her sleeves. He didn't close the door yet. He watched her for a moment longer, just breathing, just existing, just trying not to fall apart. You should know, she said quietly. I won't be a problem. I keep to myself. Grant didn't respond with reassurance. He didn't try to comfort her. He just said, no one should have to keep themselves small to survive. The words hung in the air, untouched. Lena's eyes lowered. The silence between them felt like two people recognizing the same kind of damage in each other. Grant stepped back and left her alone in the room. He closed the door gently. In his own bedroom, Grant sat on the edge of his bed. He didn't turn on the television. He didn't reach for his phone. He didn't try to distract himself. He let the stillness breathe. He remembered the night of the fall, a rooftop, a party, laughter, music. His business partner, Julian Roche, standing at the edge of the balcony, drink in hand, making a toast that never finished, slipping, falling, sirens, statements, the funeral. Everyone said tragic accident. Miles said nothing at all. Just watched Grant with a stare that felt like a judgment waiting for proof. Grant exhaled slowly, grounding himself in the now. Down the hall, Lena stood at the window of the guest room, looking out at the rain-washed city below. Her reflection stared back, pale, tired, still trembling. She touched the glass lightly with her fingertips. She didn't cry. She looked like someone who had forgotten how. She whispered her own name, as if reminding herself she existed. Lena Hart, still here, still breathing. A shadow moved behind her in the reflection. She turned. Grant stood at the doorway, not inside the room, just present. You didn't eat, he said. Her voice was soft. I couldn't. You need to, he answered. She nodded. They walked to the kitchen, neither speaking. He heated leftover pasta. Simple. Enough. He plated it without ceremony, handed her a fork, and sat across from her. The rain filled the silence between them. She took a bite. Slow. Uncertain. He didn't push her to talk, but she did. When he finds someone, she said quietly, staring at the plate. He doesn't stop until they're either his, she paused, or gone. Grant's eyes lifted. Not pity, not shock, recognition. Because he had heard words like that before, spoken in a hospital hallway, whispered at a graveside, left unsaid in a courtroom. Lena looked up and met his eyes. I don't need saving, she said. I just needed somewhere he couldn't walk into. Grant nodded once. You're safe here. She didn't believe it, but she wanted to. The apartment buzzed. The intercom lit up. A visitor notification. Grant's posture changed. Stay here, he said. Lena didn't move. He crossed the room and pressed the intercom button. A voice came through the speaker. Smooth, familiar. Grant, it's been a while. Miles Roche was in the lobby. Grant didn't answer the intercom right away. He stood still, one hand resting on the wall beside the console. The rain outside softened, the city lights reflecting against the wet pavement below. Lena stayed at the kitchen table, her body tight, breath shallow. She didn't ask who it was. She already knew. The speaker crackled again. You're going to let me up. We both know that. Miles's voice held the same calm familiarity it always had, smooth, unhurried, not angry, a man confident enough not to raise his tone. Grant pressed the button. No. There was a pause on the line, a small one. Then Miles laughed quietly, like he'd been expecting that. All right. The line clicked off. Grant looked out toward the front door as if expecting footsteps, but there were none. He knew Miles wasn't the type to force his way in. He didn't need to. Miles never entered a room unless the room had already tipped his way. Lena's voice finally broke the quiet. He's not going to leave. Grant turned toward her. I know. She stood, fingers curling around the edge of the table for balance. The light from the overhead fixture softened the exhaustion in her face, but not the fear. Why would he come here now? Why today? Grant didn't answer immediately. He walked to the living room window instead. The city moved far below. The river reflected the lights like a road of broken gold. Somewhere down there, Miles was waiting, watching. This isn't about you, Grant said quietly. Lena's expression changed. Confusion, hurt, something else. It's not? Her voice barely rose. He didn't come here because he found you, Grant continued. He came here because he knew where I was. The distance between them shifted just slightly, like a line being drawn and erased in the same motion. Lena stepped forward. Then why involve me? Grant turned from the window. His eyes were steady, focused. Because you ran from something he believes belongs to him, and I walked away from something he believes belonged to him. Lena stared at him, absorbing it. You mean his father, she said. Grant's jaw tightened. Julian Roche was my partner, he said. We built Ellison Roche together, every property, every deal, every negotiation, every step. Lena listened, not blinking. He trusted me, Grant said, more than anyone. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. And Miles believes I took advantage of that trust. Lena stepped closer, slow and careful. Did you? Grant looked at her then, not with defensiveness, not with anger, but with the weight of memory. No. Silence settled between them again, not cold this time, heavy, real. Lena nodded once. I believe you. The words were simple, but they landed with weight. A buzz sounded from the building's service entrance, not the front, a different access point. Grant's posture shifted. He crossed to a panel on the wall. A screen came to life. The camera feed displayed a stairwell. Empty. Then a person stepped into view. Miles, hands in his coat pockets, head slightly tilted, looking straight into the camera. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He just looked. Grant stared back at the screen. Lena's voice was quiet behind him. "He's not here for closure." "No," Grant said. The feed flickered to black, then returned. Miles was gone. No footsteps, no sound, no exit, just gone. Lena swallowed hard. "He wants you to feel him everywhere." Grant didn't respond. He already did. The night stretched on, but neither of them spoke for a while. Rain quieted to a soft tapping against the glass. The city outside glowed under street lamps and passing headlights, all of it moving, all of it unaware of the storm tightening inside one apartment window above it. Lena moved to the living room and sat on the floor beside the couch, not to hide, not to retreat, just to be grounded. Grant stayed standing near the window, hands resting on the back of a chair, body still but alert. They weren't strangers anymore, but they weren't allies yet either. They were two people with wounds that overlapped in the dark. Lena finally broke the quiet. "You said Julian trusted you." Her voice was soft, not probing, just trying to understand the shape of the pain she had stepped into. Grant nodded once. "He did." "What happened to him?" she asked. Grant didn't answer immediately. He chose his words like someone choosing what to release and what to bury. "We were at an investment summit in Denver. Rooftop dinner, celebrations, contract signed, too much champagne." His jaw shifted slightly. He leaned against the railing. It gave way. Lena listened. "No witnesses?" she asked, though she knew the answer already. "There were witnesses," Grant replied. "There always are. But no one was looking at Julian. They were looking at me." Lena exhaled slowly. "Because you were standing closest." He didn't confirm it. He didn't need to. Her eyes lowered. "That's where I saw him," she said. "Not at the fall. I wasn't there. But afterward, I was volunteering at a community shelter. Grief counseling program. Miles came to talk to someone there. I don't know who. I don't know why, but he saw me. And I think—" She hesitated. "I think he assumed I knew something." Grant turned to face her fully now. "Did you?" She looked up, honest, tired, unprotected. "No. I didn't even know who he was until months later." Grant watched her carefully. His silence was not judgment. It was assessment, connection forming by threads, not leaps. Lena pushed her hair behind her ear with shaking fingers. He came back again, months later, same shelter, same time of day, same look. Like I was a puzzle he'd already solved, he said 2 words to me. Her voice grew smaller. "You saw something." Grant's jaw locked, controlled but sharp. "That's when you ran." Lena nodded. "I didn't even pack. I just left." Grant leaned back against the counter. The air between them thinned, not from distance, but from realization. "He chose you," Grant said quietly, "the same way he chose me." Lena swallowed. "Why?" Grant didn't speak for a long moment. When he did, it was almost a whisper. "Because we both loved someone he lost." The room froze. Lena's breath caught. Grant didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. The truth was already there between them. Julian Roach, father to Miles, partner to Grant, the thread between every shadow in this room. Lena stared at the floor as understanding settled like weight across her shoulders. "I met Julian," she said softly. "Once, at the shelter. He donated, quietly, no speeches. He asked questions. He listened. He cared." Grant's eyes closed just for a moment. Not in grief, in memory. Lena's voice broke into a whisper. "Miles thinks someone took his father from him, and he thinks—" "We both know the truth." Grant's jaw tightened. "He doesn't want the truth," he said. "He wants someone to carry the pain with him, and if they won't—" Lena finished the sentence for him. "He will make them." The rain stopped completely. Silence pressed in, and the night felt too still. Grant looked at her then. Really looked. 2 lives, 2 losses, 1 storm, 1 hunter. The connection wasn't coincidence, it was collision. Morning came gray and slow, clouds hanging low over the skyline. Neither of them had slept much. Grant brewed coffee while Lena sat at the kitchen island, elbows resting on the cool marble surface. She stared into the cup in front of her like it held something she couldn't find anywhere else. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Silence had become familiar. Then Grant's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen, jaw tightening just slightly. "Tonight," he said. "There's a charity dinner, annual fundraiser. The board expects me there." Lena didn't look up. "You're going?" "I have to," he replied. "If I don't, it looks like I'm hiding." "And if you do," she said quietly, "he'll be there." Grant didn't deny it. He didn't offer reassurance. He only poured another cup of coffee and set it in front of her. "You'll come with me." Lena lifted her eyes. Shock flickered. Not anger, not offense, just disbelief. "You want me to stand beside you in public?" "Yes." "That's not protection," she said, voice thin. "That puts a spotlight on me." Grant sat across from her. "He's already watching. Visibility can be a shield or a weapon. It depends who holds the narrative." Lena stared at him, searching his face. "Are you asking," she said, "or are you telling?" Grant held her gaze unblinking. "Asking." Lena let the silence stretch, letting herself feel the weight of what he was offering. Not safety, not rescue, but position. A place beside him, not behind him. She nodded once. "I'll go." That evening, the ballroom at the Westmont Hotel glowed with chandeliers and crystal, filled with Chicago's wealthy and powerful. Women in silk and velvet, men in tailored suits and steady voices, laughter polished and practiced. The kind of room where secrets wore perfume. Grant entered with Lena at his side. She wasn't dressed like someone trying to impress. Just a simple black dress, hair pinned back, no jewelry, except a thin silver ring on her index finger. Graceful in a way that didn't ask to be seen, but was impossible not to notice. The room shifted when they walked in. People greeted Grant with polite smiles, curious glances flicking toward Lena. No one asked who she was, not yet. This was a room that preferred whispers to questions. Grant guided her to the table near the front. She kept her posture steady, breath calm, eyes forward, but her fingers curled slightly at her side, hidden by the drape of fabric. Then the room changed. Subtle. Sharp. Like a cold draft through velvet curtains. Lena didn't have to turn to know. She felt him. Miles Roche entered without announcement, no entourage, no introduction, just presence. His suit was dark, his tie undone, as if he hadn't needed to try. His hair slicked back the same way it always had been. His eyes scanned the room, not hunting, recognizing. He saw them and smiled, not loud, not cruel, worse, pleased. He walked toward their table slowly, each step unhurried, like he was giving the room time to notice him and remember. Lena didn't move. He stopped at their table, hands in his pockets, gaze sliding between them. "Grant," he said, warm as silk. "It's been too long." Grant didn't stand, didn't smile. "Miles." Miles's gaze drifted to Lena, deliberate, slow. "And you," he said. "I didn't realize the two of you knew each other so well." Lena's heartbeat thudded once, hard, but her face didn't show it. Grant spoke instead. "We know enough." Miles's smile deepened. "I'm sure you do." He leaned just slightly closer to Lena, voice soft enough for only the three of them. "Tell me, Lena, did you ever tell him about Denver?" Lena didn't breathe. Grant didn't react. Miles straightened, hands still in his pockets. "Enjoy your evening." He walked away. Not far, just far enough to watch. Lena stared at the tablecloth, breath trembling, fingers tightening so hard her ring pressed into her skin. Grant didn't ask what Denver meant. Not here, not now, but he saw it. There was more, and she had not told him. The dinner continued around them as if nothing had shifted, but everything had. The orchestra played something soft, something elegant, something no one in the room was really listening to. Voices murmured, silverware chimed, glasses clinked. The night moved, slow and polished, but Lena stayed still. Her hands were resting in her lap, fingers laced so tightly together they trembled. She didn't look at Grant. She stared at the tablecloth, blue satin, smooth, unwrinkled, unbothered. Grant didn't touch her. He didn't lean in, but he didn't look away from her either. "Lena," he said quietly. She didn't respond at first. When she did, her voice was flat. "I wasn't supposed to have seen it." Grant kept his tone even, calm. "Denver," he said, "tell me." Lena finally looked up. Her voice didn't shake now. It was too tired to. "I didn't meet Julian at the shelter," she said. "Not the first time. I met him before that, months before the fall." The room around them blurred, laughter turning distant, lights softening at the edges. "I worked at a hotel in Denver," she continued. "Front desk, just passing through, saving money, trying to get to school. One night, Julian came in. He looked exhausted, not drunk, just worn." She blinked slowly. "He asked for a different room, said the one he was assigned wasn't secure." Grant's jaw clenched, a slow tension tightening the muscle along his cheek. Lena continued. "I didn't think anything of it. I gave him the new room. He thanked me. He left." She swallowed. "And then I saw him again the next morning. In the lobby. He was pacing. He kept checking behind him. He looked scared." She paused. Julian Roche was scared. Grant didn't move. "He didn't see me watching. I didn't mean to. I just knew something was wrong. I wrote down the room number he left from. I shouldn't have done that. But I did." Her eyes held something like guilt, something like regret that had grown roots. "Week later, I saw him again. At the shelter. He was donating, volunteering, helping people. He smiled that time, but it was a forced smile, the kind you wear when you're trying not to break." Her voice grew quieter. "He looked relieved to see a familiar face. He asked if I liked coffee. We talked, just for a few minutes. He said people only come to shelters when they're trying to remember who they are." She exhaled, and a week after that, he was dead. Grant let the silence stand. He needed to hear the part she hadn't said yet, and she knew. "I didn't understand any of it until Miles showed up at the shelter," she said. "He sat beside me like we were friends. He didn't say hello. He didn't ask my name." Her eyes darkened. "He just said, 'My father trusted the wrong person.'" Grant's breath stilled. He looked at me like I was a camera, like I had recorded something, like I knew where the missing piece was. Lena looked at him now. Really looked. "I didn't choose your table that day by chance, Grant." She didn't whisper. She didn't break. "I recognized you." Grant's heartbeat pulsed once, slow and deep. "You knew who I was when you slipped me that note." Yes. There it was. The first truth that changed everything. The restaurant around them blurred into white noise. "You thought I could protect you," Grant said. Lena shook her head. "No. I thought you were the only person who would understand why I can't go back." Grant sat back slowly, the realization landing like weight. She didn't run to him. She ran to the only ghost who survived the same fire. Across the ballroom, Miles watched them, not smiling anymore, just waiting. The dinner ended without ceremony. People filtered out into the lobby, their laughter echoing against marble floors. Valets jogged through the rain with umbrellas. Champagne glasses sat half-finished on linen tables. Grant and Lena didn't speak on the drive back. The city lights moved past the windows in long, smudged ribbons. The windshield wipers swept in steady rhythm. The silence wasn't avoidance, it was calculation. Both of them were thinking. Both of them were remembering. When they reached the garage, Grant parked, turned off the engine, and rested his hands on the steering wheel. Lena looked ahead, not at him. "He knows," she said quietly. Grant didn't ask what she meant. He already knew. Miles didn't taunt without purpose. He didn't show up to be seen. He showed up to be sure. They walked through the lobby and into the elevator. No one else was there, just the low hum of the motor and the soft glow of the overhead light. Their reflections looked like strangers in the mirrored walls, people holding their breaths. The elevator opened. They stepped into the hallway. Halfway to the apartment, Grant stopped. The door was already slightly open. No force, no damage, just open. Lena froze. Grant pushed the door the rest of the way with 2 fingers. The lights were on. The apartment smelled faintly of rain and cologne that didn't belong to him. The living room was untouched. But the kitchen counter wasn't. A small black phone sat there, face down, placed deliberately, waiting. Not Grant's phone, not Lena's. A burner. Grant didn't hesitate. He picked it up and turned it over. The screen lit up instantly. One message already open. A photograph, not grainy, not rushed. Clear. It was the photo of the 2 of them at the cafe. Grant's hand over hers, Lena's eyes swollen with fear, a man's shadow behind the glass. Taken from inside the restaurant, but from an angle higher than eye level, as if the camera wasn't held by a person, as if it had always been there, pointed directly at that table, waiting. Lena stepped closer. Her breath shortened. "That's the ceiling register," she whispered. "There's a maintenance camera there, above table 8. I remember because it leaks sometimes." Grant's jaw set. Miles hadn't stumbled into that cafe. He had chosen it. He had waited. He had predicted. He had known exactly where Lena would be forced to sit. Grant's voice was quiet, steady. He planned the entire encounter. Lena's throat closed. "So I never escaped." Grant didn't answer. He placed the phone back on the counter. It vibrated. A new message appeared. Just one line. "Reunions are only beautiful when both people know they're happening." No signature, but none was needed. Lena's hands curled at her sides, not shaking this time, not collapsing, stealing. Grant watched her. "You're not alone in this," he said. Her eyes lifted to his. No tears, no weakness, just truth. "I know," she said. Thunder rolled across the windows. The city lights flickered. The apartment felt smaller. Grant reached for the remote and turned off every light except the one above the table. The shadows deepened. The storm outside quieted, waiting. Lena stepped closer. "What do we do now?" Grant didn't hesitate. "We stop reacting." He looked toward the window, toward the city, toward wherever Miles might be standing. "And we start preparing." The night ran long. Hours passed in quiet movement. Grant checked door locks, window latches, building camera feeds. Lena sat on the couch, knees pulled up, watching him move through the space like a man who had done this before. Not paranoid, not frantic, just prepared. A person who has already survived something once. When Grant finished, he sat across from her. Not close, not far. Enough space to speak without speaking over each other. Lena stared at her hands. Her voice was low. "There's something I didn't tell you." Grant didn't react. He waited. Lena took a breath that caught under her ribs. "Denver wasn't the first time I saw Julian." The air stilled. Grant's posture changed just slightly, shoulders drawing in, attention sharpening like a held note. Lena continued, "I was working at the shelter because I had nowhere else. I was living in one of the upstairs rooms. The staff pretended not to notice. It happens more than people think. You work where you sleep. You sleep where you survive." She traced the rim of her fingernail along her palm, something to anchor herself. "Julian came in late one night, past closing. He wasn't drunk. He wasn't tired. He was crying. The word sat heavy. It did not fit the image of a man Grant once knew. Confident, assured, charming. He sat on the floor outside my door. He didn't see me. He just... Her breath trembled. He said he'd made a mistake he couldn't undo. That someone was going to pay for it. That he didn't know how to stop it anymore. Her voice went quiet. He said your name, Grant. Grant didn't move. Not a blink, not a breath. Lena's eyes softened, not with pity, with understanding. I think he was trying to protect you, and when he couldn't, he panicked. Grant stood slowly, walked to the window, and placed one hand against the glass. The reflection stared back, a man holding the edges of a truth he wasn't ready to unwrap. Lena spoke again, quieter. He didn't fall. Someone pushed him. Grant closed his eyes. Not in grief, in acknowledgement. It was something he had never said aloud, something he had never fully allowed himself to believe, because believing it meant the world was not just cruel, it was designed. Lena continued, and Miles didn't ask me what I saw. He asked me who I would protect. The lights of the city flickered against the wet pavement below, gold, white, red, disappearing into rain-soaked asphalt. Grant turned toward her. Why didn't you tell me this earlier? Lena's voice cracked for the first time. Because I needed you to see me before you saw what followed me. She didn't cry. She didn't look away. She just finally stopped hiding. Grant stepped closer, slow, deliberate. Lena looked up at him, bracing for judgment, but Grant's voice was steady. You are not what he did, or what he wants. Lena blinked hard, like the words shook loose something she had held too long. The apartment went still. No thunder now, no storm, just silence, the kind that only comes after truth breaks open. Lena exhaled sharply, her body folding forward as if something inside her finally gave way. Not weakness, release. The kind that comes when a person has been holding themselves together for too many miles. Grant moved to sit beside her, not touching, just there. Lena didn't speak again. She didn't need to. They stayed like that, still, breathing, unwatched, until the rain began again. Orchestrated everything morning came without sunlight, just pale gray sky pressing against the windows. The world outside blurred, as if the city itself didn't want to be seen today. Grant brewed coffee. Lena sat wrapped in a throw blanket on the couch, awake but not rested. The quiet between them was no longer tense, just real. The door buzzer cut through it. Neither of them moved. The screen lit up. Lobby camera. A delivery driver stood at the desk holding a small, flat package. No return label, no company name, just Grant's address. Grant exhaled once, controlled. He went down alone. Lena waited, fingers knotted in the blanket like she was holding on to something she couldn't allow herself to lose again. Minutes passed. The elevator dinged. Grant came back holding a thin, black envelope. Matte, heavy, expensive paper. The kind used for invitations to places people don't publicly admit they go. He placed it on the table between them. Neither reached for it. Lena's voice was barely above a breath. Open it. Grant didn't hesitate. He slid a finger under the seal. No ceremony, no dread. Inside was a single photograph, not new, not recent. Old, taken 5 years ago. A rooftop dinner, champagne, laughter, Julian Roche at the center, smiling, healthy, alive. Grant stood beside him, hand on his shoulder, looking younger, believing in the future. And next to Julian, Lena. Not the Lena sitting here now, younger, brighter, smiling the way people do before fear teaches them how to hide. She was laughing. Julian's hand rested gently on her back. She wasn't staff. She wasn't background. She wasn't passing through. She was close. Lena stared. Her breath stopped, shoulders locked, color drained from her face. Not shock, but memory resurfacing through water she had tried to drown it in. No, she whispered. No, Grant didn't accuse her. He didn't move. He didn't turn away. He just waited. Lena's voice came like something breaking loose inside her. I didn't know you were there that night. I didn't know who he was going to meet. I didn't know Julian was your Julian. I didn't even remember that rooftop until now. She pressed her hand to her chest, struggling to breathe. I was just invited. He said it was a fundraising dinner. He said I could help. I thought I was doing something good. I didn't know it mattered. Her voice cracked, not desperate for forgiveness, desperate for memory. I didn't remember. The photograph trembled in her hands, and that's when Grant saw it. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't fate. This wasn't chance. Miles had known about her before the cafe, before Denver, before the shelter. He had been watching both of them for years. He had nudged, placed, cornered, made sure they collided exactly the way he wanted. Because Lena wasn't a witness, she was proof. Proof Julian was planning something before he died. Proof Julian didn't trust the people around him. Proof of betrayal Miles had been certain existed. A puzzle piece Miles couldn't solve. So he positioned the puzzle until someone else did. Grant didn't look at the photograph again. He looked at Lena, shaking, unraveling, remembering, and he said the words that changed the shape of the storm. None of this started with you running. Lena lifted her eyes. It started with him choosing you. She broke. Not loudly, not violently, not dramatically, just quietly. The kind of breaking that comes when the truth stops being something you can outrun. Grant moved closer, not to hold her, not to rescue her, just to be there. Outside, a car engine idled, not passing, waiting. The engine outside stayed running, low and steady, like a heartbeat in the dark. Lena stood, the photograph still in her hand. She wasn't crying. She was standing in the wreckage of her own memory, trying to understand where her life had actually begun. Did Julian know he was being followed? She asked. Grant didn't answer right away. Yes, he said softly. He knew. Lena's voice was a whisper. And he trusted me. And me, Grant replied. They stood in the living room, two ghosts remembering the same person in different pieces. What if we were never supposed to meet? Lena said. What if we were just placed? Grant's jaw tightened, not in anger, but in recognition. Then the only thing we choose now, he said, is what happens next. For the first time, Lena didn't look afraid. She looked resolute. The elevator dinged, not a knock, not a buzz, not a message. The elevator, meaning someone had a key, a code, access. Lena stepped back. Grant moved forward. They knew who it would be. The car door slid open. But it wasn't Miles. It was Vivian Ellison, Grant's younger sister, law book still in her bag, keys in her hand, hair pulled back in a quiet hurry. She froze when she saw Lena. Grant, she said slowly, you need to come with me. Now. Grant didn't move. Vivian's voice lowered to a whisper, urgent and sharp. Miles filed wrongful death charges against you this morning. You're being named as the primary cause of Julian's death. And Lena... Her eyes shifted to Lena, realizing who she was. You were listed as a cooperating witness. Lena staggered back. No, she breathed. I didn't say... Vivian shook her head. I know you didn't. He submitted statements in your name. The room went still. Miles wasn't trying to scare them anymore. He was changing the story. And once the story changes, truth doesn't matter. Grant exhaled slowly. We leave, he said. Lena blinked. Leave where? Not running, Grant corrected. Moving. A decision. Not fear. Strategy. Grant walked to the table, picked up the burner phone, and placed it into his coat pocket. Lena grabbed the photograph, not to keep it, but so it could not be left behind. Vivian checked the hallway. All clear. They stepped into the elevator, doors closing, silence tightening. the floor numbers blinking downward. Lena held the photograph to her chest. Grant watched the numbers change, jaw set, eyes calm in the way storms go calm before they strike. The elevator reached the lobby. The doors opened. Flashbulbs went off like lightning. Reporters, cameras, voices. They had been waiting, every headline already written, every angle already chosen. Lena's breath broke into a gasp. Then, above the noise, a single voice cut clean through it. Low, steady. So close it felt like it was spoken against the skin just behind the ear. Reunions are only beautiful when both people walk toward them. Miles stepped forward through the cameras, not smiling, just watching, as if this was the moment he had been building toward all along. Grant didn't move. Lena didn't run. The world held its breath.